We got an exciting one today with us here on Notsam Wrestling. The man, the myth, the legend, Raven. And Raven, you're here not to promote a show or a match or anything like that. You're here to promote your life story. You're here to promote your documentary. And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, the director did an amazing job. He really made me interesting.
He did. He did. I was interested the whole way through. And like, I've been thinking about it. And I think that's because it's, it's a warts and all type of doc. And it's also, I mean, I don't know. I feel like you go into a lot of your past and growing up and everything. And you talk about what you went through, but you're not necessarily, you don't strike me as the type of person that's looking for sympathy. It feels a lot more sort of like you've worked through some of this stuff and said, hey, maybe the reason I was this way is because of this. Maybe the reason I was that way is because of that.
Yeah, you nailed it. That I'm not looking for sympathy. To be honest, it's like I came out with with my my early onset Parkinson's diagnosis a month or two ago, and the only reason I did was because I have a tremor, and it's noticeable, and it looks weird, to have a tremor and no idea why. Like, are you nervous? Are you anxious or whatever? And it's so that's the only reason I even put that out. I didn't even tell people I mentioned I had a heart attack till like 5 years later. Because it's nobody's business. It's my personal life's my personal life. But by the same token, I wanted people to understand me better, my friends and family. I wanted my fans to understand my career better, and I wanted to tell my story. And I'm too lazy to write a book, and I don't want to have somebody ghostwrite one for me because I'm a perfectionist at things I want to do. Things I don't want to do, I'm not a perfectionist at all. But that would be something where I'd really want to get the story right. And I'd have to, even if somebody else wrote it, I'd have to re-edit it and re-edit it and re-edit it. And that's a shit ton of work, So I'm like, I've written the first 3 pages and that's about as far as I got with it. And then the director came along and he said, "Hey, I want to do a documentary on you." And I'm like, "Okay, you're full of shit."
Right.
And he goes, "No, I did this one on Bill Probert and Charles Manson, and you can look them up." And I go, "Well, if we do it, it's got to be warts and all. You know what I mean? It's got to be. You got to show all my negative traits as well as my positive. I don't want it to be just a rah-rah piece. I wanted to tell, my story, and I think he did a hell of a job. I mean, it's so painful for me to watch it, so I know he did a hell of a job."
Yeah. If you didn't feel anything watching it, it probably wouldn't be a very good story.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
It would just be too yay me, which is anything but who I am as a person,
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I mean, you as a person, the way you describe yourself, being a lazy perfectionist sounds like torture.
Oh, it is. It's brutal.
Like you want everything perfect, but you don't want to have to do anything.
It's like somebody said about the Raven character. He's never alone, but always lonely.
Yeah.
I thought that was really insightful. Like I've said similar in the past, but not as eloquently.
Mm-hmm.
But that's who I am in person too. I'd always have a group of friends around. I'd always have people around. And then, and although now that I'm more content and happy with myself, I find I like being alone. A lot more.
Yeah, I think when you've kind of silenced some of those voices in your own head that are telling you you're the worst, it becomes easier to be alone. But I think that that's actually a really smart way of describing that Raven character and I think you find that people in Hollywood are like that too, where you surround yourself with lackeys, except there's no real connection. None of them are your real friends. They're all like you're using them and they're using you, and you end up, and then at the end of the day, you're still lonely the same way you were for a period of time, the same way Raven was.
Well, it's like I felt like when you're really lonely and you fall in love, and then you still have to go to, even if you're sleeping with the person, and you still have to go to sleep on your own terms, you're still alone at the most crucial moment. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So no matter, even if you're in so like, I got a family that loves me now. My ex-wife's family, they treat me as their son. In fact, I couldn't go to Thanksgiving down at their house this year because I got to catch a flight on Friday, and it would have been to 5.5, 6 hour drive to Niceville and Destin, Florida, basically, and from Atlanta. And so I was like, I don't want to drive down and go down, Thanksgiving and turn around and drive all the way back straight to the airport and straight to a flight, And so I'll just hang by myself for Thanksgiving. You guys have a great time. And and my in-laws changed their plans, and they said, nope, we're coming up to your house.
Wow.
Yeah, and they drove up. It's so sweet, It's like, so I know I'm loved, and that's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But even so, you're still alone. I mean, we're still alone as people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the crucial moments, and that's the part that I had to get okay with. Like when you're in a shower, and there's no one but your own thoughts, which is a weird thing to say. But I used to hate taking a I always shower a couple times a day, but I used to hate it because you're just alone with your own thoughts.
That's so wild. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have even thought it could get so bad that in the shower you'd feel that way. I think a lot of people relate to going to bed and feeling that way because you could spend your whole day trying to avoid actually thinking about what's really going on. Like there's all kinds of things and people you could be around that will make you forget what you're actually thinking about. It's just once your head hits the pillow, now that's all there is.
It's why I still getting so much trouble because I don't think. I never liked thinking. I always so whenever I was talking, it's exactly what I'm thinking at the moment. Which is not good because I don't edit myself at all because I'm too busy getting out my thoughts.
Right, because you don't want them to fester. You don't want them to just be there.
Right, and I don't like people have always said to me, they go, why don't you think before you talk? And I go, I don't think. I try not to think because I don't want to be stuck in my own head with myself, Yeah,
because as difficult as it is for you to deal with my honesty, imagine if I had to deal with all of it.
Right, exactly. Right. That's exactly it.
Yes.
Yeah, you get it.
I do. Have you always been, because I mean, part of the doc, it gets into, and I mean, it's obvious to anybody that's followed your career, you're always deeply psychological in the way you portrayed characters. At least everything after Johnny Polo was deeply psychological in the way you portrayed characters, but you're obviously somebody who thinks on that level as a human being. Have you always kind of been that way, or was there something in your adult life that kind of flipped the switch on that?
I've always been that way. I've always, you get weird thoughts in your head, which, it took me till I was 30 to have my chiropractor tell me, he goes, you're not responsible for your thoughts. You're only responsible for your actions, and put it in a, and when I broke down and had that conversation with him, I said, I got to tell you something weird. I'm like, I don't like to think because I get weird thoughts in my head. And he's like, well, yeah, but you're not responsible for them. Everybody gets weird thoughts, I'm like, they do? He's like, yeah, everybody gets weirdo thoughts in their head, and it's just a matter of just not letting them go, letting them pass by, and only do with what your actions tell. You show you who you are with your actions, not with your thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I think that's right. I mean, you were so deep in that Raven character, and like you just said, you spent so long not telling people what was actually going on with you, because I think everything for a very long time publicly was just whatever was in that character. For you to now go out and realize that not only do kind of all your friends and family know everything that's in this doc, but now you're going to start going to signings, you're going to start going to shows, and fans now kind of know everything. Does that change the way you feel going into stuff? No,
because I did the therapy years ago. So, I did a therapy when I was in WWE. I think that's when I started seeing a psychologist.
For when you were in WWE as Raven.
Yeah, when I was a Raven. Yeah. So that's when I started seeing a psychologist because I didn't want to be, because I was very egotistical throughout my career because I was insecure.
Right.
And insecure is anybody who's egotistical is insecure. There's no other reason for it because it's just not human nature to brag about yourself unless you're feeling insecure, or generally speaking, so I didn't want. So many old timers would come in the locker room and they'd be like, "I sold out this arena," blah blah blah, telling war stories. But the war stories they weren't like, they were all about their career, you know what I mean? And they weren't just, like war stories, like, I slept with this chick or did this or did that, you know what I mean? It would always invariably end up with, I sold out this house and I sold out that house. And I was like, I don't want to be 50 years old going, man, I sold out the Portland Sports Arena, you know what I mean? Or I sold out the bingo hall so I started seeing a therapist, and that's when I started dealing with the issues, and it's still, it wasn't an overnight fix. It took, years, and even then I still have lapses, and it's still, like, I've dealt with all the issues in the movie, but it's watching it is like having a Band-Aid ripped off, and another one, and another one, and another one. Because the shots come right after one after the other, which is what I wanted, because I wanted it to be that way. But it's still painful to watch the movie. I haven't really watched the whole thing since the rough draft, since the final rough draft back 2 years ago, maybe.
It's really, it's great because it does it goes into who you were before wrestling, how you got into wrestling. It goes through the whole career, and then really how your wrestling character and you kind of merged into one being, and of course I'm talking about the Raven character, but I thought it was also really interesting, going all the way back when you're first of all, your justification for coming in and wanting to be that chicken shit heel, which was not only because of your size, but because it was different, because it wasn't like the same thing that was everywhere. And I had no idea, growing up, watching Johnny Polo manage and do commentary and everything, that you also had a job in the office, that you were an associate producer for Monday Night Raw. How do you, when you have really, you have wrestling experience in Portland, and you had your run in WCW as Scotty Flamingo, how do you stand out from just another wrestler and even have WWE be aware enough to say, hey, maybe we should try this kid out to be an associate producer, a behind the scenes guy?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I haven't really gotten while I've been doing this media tour, so to speak. It's not like I'm going on red carpets or anything, but doing all the podcasts I'm doing to advertise the film, because I want people to see it, But the way they found out was that Lawler had to take some time off, so Vince made me a commentator. He had me commentate with him on the Superstars show, which was a show they had, which was it was the number one show for WWF for a long time until it became Raw, became the number one show, and Superstars became the number two show. And Vince was doing commentary on it, and he had me come in and do commentary with him. And he was like, this was Superstars was the number one show. Raw wasn't even out yet, I don't think. No, Raw had to be out. Yeah,
it was the first year, probably. It was the first year of Raw. But Superstars was Superstars was the franchise show,
right, for
a long time. It was that syndicated Saturday 12 p.m. on all the networks show.
Yeah, so they had and then they had All America and they had a challenge show, and then they had All American and Mania, which were the wraparound shows that were like magazine formats. They go, well, we had this show, this match from Raw, or this match from Superstars that we'll show here on this, and so Vince had me come in and do commentary with him on Raw, because I guess he he liked what he saw on me doing Johnny Polo, and then he saw I came prepared with notes and ideas and jokes and stuff, and he liked that I was really prepared, and he, because that's not a thing wrestlers usually do, or at least they didn't. Now a lot more do. I don't know why you wouldn't prepare. You know what I mean? Like why you would. So anyway, so the yeah, so he said we're going to make you an associate producer, and I forget if he had me on the radio WWF before that or something, or he might have already had me doing the producer role. So we're going to have you associate produce Raw and do and also do the wraparound shows, All American and Mania. We're going to have you format them, and we're going to groom you for the booking committee. And
it was all just because you showed up to work. Because you were working with him directly, so he saw you prepared. And I guess too, the thing about doing commentary is you're not just doing your own stuff at that point. You're talking about the whole show, and that's where you kind of get the idea that maybe he looks at you and he's like, oh, he understands kind of all the stories and the whole show, and how to get people over. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're grooming me for the booking committee, which I never wanted to be on. I wanted to wrestle. But I wasn't going to turn down a 6-figure job with healthcare. I had healthcare, and the boys didn't, and I was just a manager, so that was kind of weird. But so I just did that, and then eventually I did All American, and he had me on All American and Mania, and they gave me an office on the 4th floor in Titan Tower, which was the floor that Vince's office was, and if you walk in the hallway, there's Vince's office on the far right, Linda's on the far left. In between are Howard, Pat, and Bruce. And there's an office facing the Howard, Pat, and Bruce's, and that was mine.
That's so great. But just the idea that it's like Vince McMahon, Linda McMahon, Pat Patterson, Bruce Pritchard, Howard Finkel, and there's Johnny Polo in there as well. That's I mean, it's kind of.
But it was always known as the death job, I think, because nobody stayed in that office for long. Like everybody kept, just like it's a sidebar. Like there's a couple people like had the job, had that office before mine, and it didn't last for them. So
I see.
But that wasn't a really big running gag, but it was a small gag, which I fulfilled by not staying long either.
Did the fact, you made it a little bigger. Did the fact that like people were leaving, like the fact that people hadn't lasted long in that position kind of add to you when you get that itch and go, well, I got in this to be a wrestler, right? Because a lot of people, it's very difficult, especially then, to make a living in the wrestling business in general. And I think a lot of people would be like, well, I'm on TV every week. I'm making good money. I have health care. Like I figured out how to make a living in wrestling. I'm just going to stay here and do it. But I guess if the job's got turnover.
What happened is that, I mean, nobody was making money except the top guys then. I mean, because that was back before Vince became a billionaire, before Raw was just hitting, Nitro hadn't started yet. It was none of that. And then so I was still managing, and I was still doing I was also doing on camera on All American. So like I would work with Gorilla Monsoon, introducing the segments and stuff, and we do silly bits. Like one time we're at a bowling alley, so I did the bit where I throw the ball, I got my fingers stuck in the ball, and I can't get them out, and I slide down into the pins. It's silly stuff like that I liked. And that's part of the reason I had Stevie as a sidekick as Raven, because I could do him and the Meanie and Nova, so they could do all the silly stuff that I liked, but Raven couldn't do.
That's great. Of course, yeah. So you're just sitting there going like, I'll live vicariously through those guys, have those guys do all these silly ideas I come up with.
Yeah, I mean, not that I would have traded. I like being Raven, but I also had a silly side that I wanted to get out. So that was a great venue for it.
Did you get along with everybody that you work with when you were doing commentary? Because that's like, I mean, with whether it was Vince, whether it was Gorilla Monsoon, did they all kind of like what you did?
Yeah, I guess they all liked my work. I got along with Gorilla, Pat and Bruce, not so much. They didn't like me. Also, I think they didn't like me because, I was being groomed to be in a booking committee, and this is before there were booking committees.
Right.
This is when it was just Pat and Bruce, and that's all there was. And there wasn't any booking committee anywhere else. Like WCW had one booker.
Right.
Eventually they wisened up and figured you'd have writers and bookers. A couple of assistants. To give you ideas. Because you can only have so many ideas. That's why back in the old days, bookers only lasted for like 6 months to a year. And like Lawler and Jerry Jarrett would switch out like every 6 months to a year because you burn out, and you want to stay as fresh as you can. And so I don't know.
Right.
So plus I was loud and obnoxious and egotistical. And so that doesn't get over with Vince and them, so.
I like that. It's like, well, on one end, they didn't love that you were coming to be in the booking committee. Also, you were not likable. So now it's both those things combined. We'll get right back to it, but I want to tell you about Lucy. Lucy and Lucy Breakers, 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. See, Lucy Breakers, these are nicotine pouches with an extra surprise. Each pouch holds a capsule that can be broken open to release extra flavor and hydration. There's all kinds of different flavors, also different strengths. You can keep it chill. You can give yourself a bigger kick. As an adult, you know what works for you, and it's easy. You can set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door, so there's no, wandering around looking for it, making sure you get the best thing. Let's level up your nicotine routine, with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/notsam and use promo code NOTSAM to get 20% off your first order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. Again, that's lucy.co and use code NOTSAM to get 20% off. Now, here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine, and nicotine is an addictive chemical.
I was always, it's funny. It's like I always had really good friends, like really close friends, and I was always able to make really good friends. But the people, and I was always able to make acquaintances really easy. But it was the in-betweeners, the not super close, but the not super far away, that I had problems with because they didn't get me.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's something to that, though. There's an integrity. People who are like either really liked or really hated, at least they're probably telling you the truth. Because that's why they're so either liked or disliked.
That's why I was so I'd be honest with guys. They always come back from the locker from the match and they go, "How would you think of my match?" And I go, "Well, I didn't like this or that or this." And they'd get mad at me, and I'm like, "What are you mad at? You asked me my opinion. If you just want somebody to say good match, ask somebody else, and like Molly Holly, she used to always love coming to me for advice for an opinion, because she knew I was giving her the honest opinion. You never know if somebody in the business is giving you an honest opinion because they're always trying to, protect feelings and nobody wants to commit,
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want to say the wrong thing or upset the wrong person or whatever. And there are a lot of people who I'm sure come back and they're on that adrenaline high and they just want somebody to tell them they were good. That's all they're looking for.
No, you're right. It's totally, they just need to come back from an adrenaline high. You're right. You're absolutely right that they do that. That's what causes it. And they just want to, they just want you to say good match. Right. But the best part is on the other side, it's the guys who are watching the matches that are burying the guy while he's out there. And then, or they'll not even be back there and they'll just happen to walk in and sit down right as the guy's walking back through the curtain, and they'll be the first ones to go, "Good match." They didn't even see it.
They didn't watch. That was great. That was really good.
That's what everybody does, because the whole business is always kept that the booker, the owner, tries to keep all the heat amongst the boys, that way. It's like people get mad when somebody took their spot. Well, why are you mad at the guy who took your spot? I've been guilty of this. I've been guilty of doing it too. But why are you mad at the guy who took your spot? Be mad at the boss who's the one who orchestrated it,
Yeah, absolutely. That is a weird thing that I've always noticed too. Or you'll get bad news from somebody And the bad news is definitely not coming from the person giving you the bad news. It's coming from the boss. But the boss is, and this isn't just wrestling. Like, this happens in other fields of work too, in life. Like,
that's why there's that quote. They always shoot the messenger.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's still like, you want to believe when your boss gives you the good news and the guy under the boss gives you the bad news, it's because that guy under your boss is an asshole. That's all that is. Your boss was telling the truth.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I've been guilty of it. I remember I had a match with RVD, and when I was in WCW, and I was leaving a Scotty Flamingo, Watts came in and finished me up. He didn't like me, and I even helped his son train and taught his son how to work, helped teach his son how to work, and he still didn't like me, the bastard. Although he said years later, he goes, I'm the reason you created Raven. If I wouldn't have fired you, Scotty Flamingo, you wouldn't have became Raven. I'm like, well, you can look at it that way.
Yeah, but it's twisted. That's really twisted logic.
Yeah, but RVD. So I was working RVD, and I felt like I didn't give him my best work, and I apologized to him. Years later, I apologized to him, and he goes and he was like, I don't even worry about it. I didn't even notice. But it's like, I remember thinking to myself years later, I'm like, God, why I'm so stupid. I fell for my own trap, for the same trap I condemn everybody else for falling for.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard not to.
Yeah.
I also, I was thinking about it too, when, you're talking about the creation of the Raven character, coming off of the WWF run, and I'm sure it was when DDP told you had to be a tough guy. It wasn't just because tough guys were the thing in the industry. It's like, okay, if you want to come off a role as a kind of goofy manager commentator guy and be like a top guy somewhere, you have to be completely different. But also at the same time, like, I remember when you came out as Raven, and it was like, it took a second to be like, oh, that's Scotty Flamingo. That's Johnny Polo. Like, you didn't even get it at first because it was so different, which is, I think, more rare than I've even heard you talk about. Everybody, if they're on TV, they leave TV and they just try to take that character from TV and bring it wherever they can, right? Whatever juice is left in that TV character, they try to make as much money off of it as they can. You disappeared from WWE TV, and when you were seen again, you were a completely different entity altogether. Was there did you feel at all? Not within the industry, because everybody knew you as Scott. Like, everybody knew what you could do, but in terms of
real quick sidebar.
Yeah.
When I was in WWE, when I went back to WWF as Raven, all the office people go, "Hey, Johnny, how you doing?" They all called me Johnny because they thought Johnny was my real first name. They thought somebody they didn't think Johnny Polo was my real name, but they figured somebody took my first name Johnny and added a Polo to it. So I'm like, no, it's Scott. Like, really? I thought it was Johnny. I'm calling you Johnny all these years. I'm like, well, yeah, you should have called me because that's what the wrestler as.
Yeah. I mean, but I also love that you put all those years into work as the Raven character, and you're back in WWE and they're calling you Johnny again. It's like, what? Thanks for noticing.
Yeah.
But did you feel at all in front of fans that you were starting from scratch again, creating this new character? Because at least to an extent, Johnny Polo, there was some Scotty Flamingo in Johnny Polo, right? It was okay, this is kind of evolving into this, but Raven was stop that completely short and start from scratch.
Yeah, and I tried to make it so nobody would. I mean, there's no way to have nobody not notice, but most people didn't notice the first couple months, and when finally somebody made a giant billboard, a giant board with a placard, I don't know, let's see, 5 feet. 4 feet by 4 feet of Johnny Polo, the picture of Johnny Polo, and they'd pull it up when I came out. But but the audience kind of shit on it because by now they're invested in Raven and they didn't give a shit about who I was in the past.
Right. Yeah, Raven got over very quickly in ECW, didn't he?
Yeah, he. What I was my original plan was to go to Smoky Mountain because Cornette said he'd bring me in, and he kept pushing it back. And in the meantime, I'd moved back to Philadelphia from Stamford Because where I lived, because the office is in Stamford and Connecticut.
Yeah.
And so I moved back to Philadelphia, and because that's where the center of all the indie activity was. Like if you go either there or the Carolinas or Atlanta, but then they don't pay as much in the South. You know what I mean? And the market and the business is more driven by the Northeast anyway. The independent scene, and WWF was there. And I knew I had because perception's reality. I knew I couldn't just sell them on my new character. I'd have to go on and create it, perform it, and then come and go to a territory with it, and then try and get booked back in New York with it. And so Cornette said he would bring me in, and he kept pushing it off. And in the meantime, I turned on ECW one day just to watch it, and all I'd heard was it was garbage wrestling. And then I saw it, and it was the most exciting wrestling show I'd ever seen. It was unbelievable,
Yeah.
And so I was like, I got to be a part of this. So then I called DDP up and said, because I already had created the Raven character, but I hadn't put it on display yet. And I called Paige and said, "Yeah, you gotta call in a favor with Paulie, get me on that show." And so I was supposed to go in for like 2-3 months to get Dreamer over. So I'm like, well, if we're gonna start off, let's start off hot. So let's have a backstory, So we'll start off hot, so that's a reason for people to get invested in it instantly. Because here's the thing, people don't understand. Maybe they do, but I don't think most people do. Is that if I punch you in the face, yeah, it's gonna hurt, but you'll get over it in a couple hours or a day or a week at the longest. You know what I mean? But if I take your girlfriend, that's going to beat you up. That's going to cause so much more suffering and pain. Psychological pain is so much more effective than physical pain because the audience can't feel it. They can only see it and hear it, which also is why super kicks work, or at least used to work really well, because you slap your leg and nobody knows you're slapping your leg. Now everybody knows that that's what they're doing. But before, so you'd hear something, you know what I mean? That's why people stomp their foot, because when you punch somebody, it makes a noise and you're not hearing a noise. So you have to stomp your foot to hide the fact that there's no noise, because you're not really punching the guy, unless you suck and you're stiffing people.
Yeah. When you go to ECW, you start doing these stories, right? And you start immediately hot with Tommy, and you start this pretty revolutionary story, especially for the time. You know what I mean? You're talking about 95, 96. Like, that wasn't happening in mainstream wrestling.
People don't realize today how bad wrestling had become.
It was bad.
Yeah, it was so bad. It was all, let's have a dumpster guy, Duke the Dumpster Drozy. Let's have a hockey player, the Goon. Let's have an IRS guy. Let's just come up with ideas for names of people, and we'll just have somebody fill the spot.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being a fan. Like, that's but that's also like contextually what made ECW so exciting, because like literally you're turning on one show and it's like Mantar. You know what I mean? It's like this guy who's like with a bullhead on, and then you find this other show on like local access, and you're like telling this insane adult in-depth psychological story about the girl and summer camp and ruining this guy's life. And it's like, and that's the difference, right? And that's what you're talking about with like the psychology of it. You're not trying to get a belt or trying to beat a guy. Like, you're trying to ruin a guy's life based on years of trauma that as an audience we never saw, but we're being informed of now.
Right, and that's why you have to tell the audience. They're not. People think the audience is either really smart or really stupid, but they're not. They're in between, like everybody else in the world. Most people are in between.
Right.
And so you got to fill them in the cues. You know what I mean? You can't just you have to give them the points of interest. I always found wrestling. I liked wrestling because of the storylines, not so much because of the matches. I mean, I liked the matches too as a kid, but it was the storylines that really drove me. No,
I've always been in the exact same way. And that's what, like, I think a lot of people still to this day don't quite grasp about ECW. It's like, for me, watching it, it was like, yeah, it was great that like hardcore was there and they were doing like barbed wire and fire and all this stuff. But it was like, it was the characters and the stories that made it so attractive to me as a wrestling fan. Like everybody on that show, you knew who they were, and not just like on a surface level, but like every main character in ECW had real depth, and none of them were like anything else that was on television.
Yeah, I tried to make, that's one of the things I wanted to do with Raven, was make him three-dimensional. Like I wanted him to be so well defined that the audience would know what he would do in any situation. Like, you know, like if Tommy ever put out his hand to shake it, Raven would. There's no way Raven would shake it unless is going to kick him.
Right.
You know, like, but I still would leave room for the left turns. You know, in the audience, when I'd lead them down one path and then make a left turn, just so they don't. It's like I'll give you an example. I remember me and Dreamer were working early on, and I hit him, and somehow Stevie came in and interfered or something, and we bumped the ref, I guess, and then I DDT Dreamer or something, I guess, or no, I don't even DDT him. I guess Stevie just hits him with a super kick, I guess, and we're both down, and I started crawling over to him, and the audience starts chanting, "No more screw job finishes," because that was one of the biggest problems with the wrestling prior that the ECW was a revolution of, was there were no clean finishes. You know, nobody ever got beat clean. Everybody would always have a DQ, or, you know, or somebody would, they didn't let anybody get over except the top guys, and the underneath and the middle guys would just trade, you know, vicarious, not even wins, you know, like double count outs and stuff like that. You know, it was just, there's no clean finishes. And so the people start chanting, "No," and I come in as Raven, and I'm different and I'm unique. And then we start playing a non-conventional game, you know, and the audience is expecting one thing. So the audience is like, no, all they can see is this is a screw job finish. Stevie just super kicked him, I guess, or whatever it was, and I'm crawling over to cover him, and the audience is just like, this is the bullshit. Now Raven comes in and he's gonna bring us back to this bullshit era of screw job finishes. This is bullshit, and they were fucking pissed, and they're screaming it. And I don't even know how they got a chant "No more screw job finishes" together. You know, like this, just the. You know, it's like
just the syllables.
Yeah, and sometimes you think that there's got to be somebody in the audience who sends out but there weren't texts, there weren't phones back then, but like send out a group text, okay, everybody start chanting this.
Yeah.
Because the chants they would start were so weird, you know, and so specific, but they come out of nowhere, organic. And as I'm crawling over, me and Dreamer just chuckling, looking at each other and chuckling in each other's eyes, because we know he's kicking out. And so they're chanting, "No more screw job finishes, no more screw job finishes." And just as the ref counts 2.5, Dreamer kicks out, and they're like, "Huh?" And they were fucking pissed. Like they were half pissed, and they were half pissed because they were wrong.
Right.
And they were half happy because they were wrong, you know?
Yeah.
But there was legitimately, you could feel like oh fuck, because the audience thought they were smarter than the boys, and they were smarter than a lot of the boys, but they weren't smarter than all the boys, you know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and so we still went through, and then had, you know, and then like we would set up a finish, and we would we would do a finish and say in the arena where like Stevie comes in, super kicks him, I cover, kick out. Dreamer rolls me up 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2.5, and then maybe the ref's distracted and I hit him with something, you know, like something or whatever, and pin him. And so the next week we would next show at the arena, we would do the same kind of finish, except just as where we got pinned the last time, where Dreamer got pinned the last time, he would kick out this time. So they're expecting, oh look, it's the same thing they did last time. And they fall and they go, "Oh, this is bullshit. It's bullshit." And then Dreamer kicks out, and they're like, "Wait, that didn't happen last time." I'm like, "I know, because I'm trying to educate you idiots." You know, I like that you're idiots, you know, because it's more fun for me. one of my favorite things was this guy. Remember, there was a guy in the front row that always had a sign.
Yeah. Of course. Sign guy.
So one day Stevie was in the gym, and the guy was there, and then Stevie walked up and said hi, and the guy goes, kayfabe. And I was like, what? And I was pissed. I was like, this motherfucker thinks he's in the business. And he's going to say kayfabe to Stevie, who's in the business. Hell of a worker, and amazing worker. And I'm just livid. I'm like, I'm going to make this guy never carry a sign again. I'm going to break him. So I have sign guy Dudley come out the next week with a sign that says the original sign guy. So the next ECW arena show, I know the guy's going to come back with a sign. So he comes back with a bigger sign, or a sign that says the original sign guy. And so we come back with next week with a bigger sign that says the original sign guy. Right? So it's childish as hell.
Yeah.
But so I know the next time he's going to come, he's going to escalate it with a bigger sign. So instead of letting him get his next one over, I wait for him to. I already set up something with Lou, with sign guy Dudley, and the rest of the Dudleys. And so when he comes out and puts his sign up, the original sign guy, I have him pull up a bed sheet, from ring post to ring post, and it says the original sign guy. And the guy never brought another sign again.
That's great. Oh, we're going to get right back to it. But every December, I promise that I'm going to stay on top of my routine. And then suddenly I'm traveling. I'm at 3 different family dinners. And my nutrition plan, it completely falls apart. But this year, shockingly, Huel is the reason I'm actually solving this problem. That's Huel, H-U-L-E. I've been using the Huel ready to drink all year, and I'm leaning on it hard now. Complete meal in a bottle, 35 grams of protein, 7 grams of fiber, 27 vitamins and minerals, literally ready to go. No prep, no mess, and keeps me full when the alternative is grabbing whatever holiday snack is closest. They have a new chocolate peanut butter flavor that's delicious. Makes avoiding those chocolate peanut butter cups a little bit easier. And I've been loving Huel's new canned super green drinks too. 42 vitamins and nutrients, 4 grams of fiber, 25 calories, no added sugar. Look, I'm not getting a lot of vegetables in December. This makes all the difference. If you're trying to stay fueled during the busiest, snackiest time of the year, Huel makes it easy. And they just launched in Target stores nationwide. You can find them all over the health and wellness aisles. Look at it and realize you heard about it here on the podcast. Get 15% off your first order at Huel.com with code NOTSAM. That's code NOTSAM, minimum $75 purchase. Huge thanks to Huel for helping me stay sane and healthy this holiday season and for supporting the podcast.
Yeah, I had to break him. Just how dare he tell Stevie kayfabe?
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. You can't. You're there to enjoy the show, not to decide that you're a part of the show. And you also, that's not a thing you invite yourself to. That's the thing you get invited to. If you get invited to it, that's one thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. You said it great. That was a great phrasing. You get invited to the party. You don't just show up at the party.
Right. Right.
With the secret password,
Yeah, because that means that's just you listening to somebody else say the secret password. Nobody gave you the password.
Right. Nobody gave you the password.
Right. That's not the spirit of it. That's so funny, man. When you
if he would have understood the spirit of the business, he never would have done it.
Right.
Like which is another reason why he had to be put down.
Yeah, because he probably thought he was being like, "Oh, this is kind of funny," but like he didn't realize it was disrespectful.
No, I don't think he was trying to be funny. He was deadly serious. He was like, he thought he's a baby face, and then Stevie's a heel. So he wanted to kayfabe in the gym because he couldn't be seen with Stevie because Stevie was a heel.
In case the fans of the guy with the sign, you don't want it to be ruined for them, right? Right.
Unbelievable.
It's crazy. But I mean, but that was that line, right? When when ECW gets to the point where like that fan base is so rabid for ECW, is such a part of what ECW is. It's like the only show where people are buying t-shirts of the promotion, not of the wrestlers, you still have to figure out where the line is between worker and fan. Like you can't let that line get blurred.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There have been so many stories about Barely Legal and how, it was, you had that cutoff because it was on traditional pay-per-view and everything, and how quick it went. And of course, that show ends with you losing the ECW title to Terry Funk. When you went out there realizing that, would you have like 4 minutes on television left or something like that?
Something like that.
Like, I'm sure that 4 minutes was not the original plan, but
no, it's supposed to have like 12 or 15.
Right. So then, I mean, are you guys all just in a panic and you run out and have to?
I wasn't, because I learned how to work in Portland.
Right.
I worked 6-7 nights a week for 20 minutes a night. So I learned how to work. So Paulie was freaking out though, which I understand because it's his show and everything's riding on his pay-per-view. And he's trying to get me to go out early. And I go, no, Paulie, I got to wait for my cue. They'll give me my cue. And he's like, come on, you got to go now. I'm like, no, just wait. And so finally my cue comes and I hit the ring. And this is the best story ever. My roommate is a foot surgeon. And he's the company doctor, though, because we needed a company doctor. And so they paid him a couple $100 to show up. He loved wrestling. And now he works with the San Antonio Spurs, I think, in San Antonio. As a foot surgeon. But so he's the foot doctor. So he's the company doctor, though, Mark Allen. And so Paulie, so now he's supposed to come in and have a spot during me and Terry Funk's part of the match, where he comes out and Terry Funk's bleeding and he checks him and he lets him keep wrestling. Like to look like we're going to screw the fans and have Terry, Raven's going to keep the belt because Funk was bleeding too much. And so the Quack Paulie's going, all right, Quack, you got to go. That's what we call him, the Quack.
Quack.
Yeah. It's like, all right, Quack, you got to go. And he's like, Paulie, it's not my spot yet. He's like,
the Quack is saying it's not his spot.
Yeah, he's learned from listening to me teach wrestling, to everybody and run off, talk about wrestling all the time, that he's learned it pretty well. And he's a smart guy. And so he goes, Paulie, it's not my spot yet. And then Paulie starts, another 30 seconds or a minute goes by, and Paulie's like, you got to go. He's like, it's not my spot yet, Paulie. And Paulie's like, another 30 minutes. He goes, Quack, you got to go. He goes, Paulie, relax. I save lives. He's a foot doctor.
He's a foot surgeon.
He's a foot surgeon. He saves lives. The greatest design ever. And then eventually he comes in, does a spot, takes a ridiculous over-the-top bump. And me and Terry finished the thing in good time, with like 30 seconds left in his time.
That's amazing.
I had the ability, I think everybody did, but didn't really, to know exactly how much time I had gone by. Like, one time I was wrestling with Bubba, and we were supposed to do this spot if we had time for it. Because they were always cutting your time in WWE, And so Bubba says to me, he goes, somewhere in the match, he goes, we're going to have to cut the spot out. I'm like, no, we got time. He's like, no, we don't. I'm like, yeah, we do. And so he goes, okay, because he respected my seniority, So we did the spot, come to the back. They said, we're 2 minutes late. And I'm like, and they yell at us. And Bubba's like, see, I told you. I go, no, we weren't, Bubba. We were right on time. And I went home and I timed it out on the on the VCR, or the DVD, or whatever the hell it was, the VCR, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it was we were exactly on time. Like, we were like within 5 seconds of on time. And we were like 5 seconds early. But that's what it shows. What they do is they steal time from you. That's why I started going to having the referees give me count me down from if it's a 10-minute match, count me down from 10, 9, 8. Because I want to know when they jump the gun, when it goes from 6 to 3.
Right.
7 to 4, 8 to 2, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to know when that hits, so that then I can, because the referees used to be like, why do you want to know all the, I'm like, I just like to know all the time where I'm at. It's also like why in MMA, like, like whenever somebody looks at the clock, one of the fighters looks at the clock, they're always like, he must be blowing, he must be out of the, exhaustion. He must be blowing up trying to see how much time's left. But I'd be like, I'd want to know how much time is left, I'd check the clock every so often just to know where I'm at in the match.
Yeah. Yeah. And what story are you telling? Is it time for act 1, act 2, or act 3? Like, especially if they're changing it as you go, like they're just telling you, no, you're late now. And it's like, they
would just, you'd have matches where you'd be 7-minute match. And then all of a sudden after a minute, they'd go, you got 3 minutes left. And you'd be like, yeah, it's not cool.
Yeah.
Just tell me ahead of time,
Yeah, absolutely. When you left the ECW, first of all, when you went to WCW, was Heyman?
Just real quick.
Yeah,
I only
please.
got like about another 5 minutes because I got to do a couple other podcasts and then promote today.
Okay, good to know. All right, see, it's good to make sure that you get your time checked throughout the throughout the thing. Was when you go to WCW, 2 questions: was Heyman upset about it, sad about it? Did he understand it? And also, how did you feel about the fact that really the story in WCW was we're going to go back to the beginning of the Raven story in ECW and just try to kind of run the thing back without Tommy Dreamer?
Paulie was pissed that I left. He didn't want me to leave, and he held a grudge for a long time, but we got past that, and now we get along great. He said some of the most kind, wonderful things about me of anybody in the business, and from him saying it, I know he means it because he wouldn't say it, and also because I respect him so much. Like I never held a grudge against Paulie. I never, like I understood why his motivations. I understood I got the guy, so I can see why he'd be mad at me. You know what I mean? And it's like he wouldn't even talk to me in WWE. The whole time I was there, every time I tried to talk to him, he'd find an excuse to walk away.
Wow.
Yeah, he held the grudge for a long time, but I get it though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like
I was there for the birthing of his, not the birth of his baby, but I was there for the baby growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and he's always talked about how that character was so close to him as it was to you. I'm sure watching that character that he helped you kind of mold and create go elsewhere was probably very, very difficult for him. When you went to, and then when you go to WCW and they kind of reestablished the flock, and now Stevie is back kind of more in the role that he was in the beginning of ECW, and you go, okay, we're just kind of, they saw the work you had done in ECW and it felt like they were just kind of starting that, or was that your thing that you came in and you were like, here's the act, this is what we should do?
No, Terry Taylor saw the act and he liked it, and he said, let's basically give you a flock, and then we're gonna have you sit in the audience, which I think was a brilliant idea.
Me too. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I was like, I'm getting paid 6 figures to sit in the audience and watch the best show on TV, and it was the best show on TV at the time. I'm like, this is great. I can't believe what a gig. What a life.
You didn't even have to talk at first. You didn't even say anything. You were just there. And then when you went to WWE after that, when you went back to WWE, was there was there any sort of thought from anybody going like, hey, he's coming in as Raven, but maybe we should revisit the idea of him being groomed for creative or behind the scenes, or had that ship completely sailed?
No, I don't think Vince was happy I was brought back. And Vince had become definitely a non-fan of me as a person. But then when I sold him my 7 Deadly Sins idea, when I got to meet with him and I gave him the run down the whole storyline, right then and there, he asked me to be in the booking committee. He said, "You sure you don't want to be in a booking committee, or you want to be in a booking committee?" I'm like, "No, I want to wrestle. I want to do this." It's like, all right. But then in the meantime, before we could start the angle, the next week I show up for Raw, and he goes, "We're going to do the angle on Heat." It's like, "How come?" He goes, "Pat doesn't think you can handle the load." So Pat still hated me from when I was there before.
Has there been?
I'm the only person in the business that doesn't get along with Pat. I mean, I got along with him to an extent, but I mean, but who has nothing? I'm the only person I think in the business who has nothing but bad things to say about him.
Yeah, you're like, who knows? Well, man, I am very happy that you were able to make some time for me today. The documentary is great. It's called Nevermore, The Raven Effect. It's available on Amazon Prime if you want to check it out there or wherever you can get it. Get your hands on it. Google it.
The weird thing about it is if you type in Nevermore to find it, you have to get to the O for it to pull up. Like it's N, you type in Never, and you'd think it'd be up by then, but I had to type in an M and an O to find it.
So, yeah. So
don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged.
It'll get there. It'll get there. Just spell it almost all the way and you'll find it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, man. Whenever you got anything going on, I'd love to talk to you. So I appreciate it, dude.
I had a lot of fun with this one. They get repetitious, but other than the last 30 minutes were, wrestling related, which I'm not which is the parts that get similar, but you asked a lot of different questions and pulled from different angles. And the beginning was really interesting. I thought we had a really great conversation. So I'm very happy I did this.
That's awesome, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much, dude.
You're welcome.